Hello, thank you guys so much for clicking this video today. It's been a while since we've actually recorded a podcast online, but we had to, change the tune a little bit. We had to record another one because I've got some exciting guests for you today. I'm actually here with Daniel Friedman and Sam Lambert from Zengate Global, and they're actually bringing, some real world technology to the Ergo blockchain, and I'm really excited to learn on what they've been working on recently. So, how are you guys doing today? And then after that, let's get into your history and, kind of introduce yourselves to the audience for the first time.
Sure. Doing really well. Just getting back from a pretty long trip. I'm really excited to kind of dig into all the connections and all the kind of leaps that we have made in the past month. So doing really well. Really excited.
Awesome. Yeah, I saw some of those, a little bit about that trip on Twitter, and I must say I was getting pretty excited about it. You're really good at kind of, teasing everybody and making us interested just from the little tweets online. Sorry for interrupting you there, Sam.
No problem. I was just about to say going well, and there'll be more photos coming up as well. Some teasers from the beautiful rolling hills of Sri Lanka and some curries as well. So that's coming up quite soon. So we're getting ready for that, which is quite exciting. Final trip of the year.
Yeah. So briefly, how did you guys get into the industry? How long have you been here? And really what led to the creation of Zengate Global?
Oh boy. So real quick. So myself, I've actually been in kind of dabbling in the blockchain industry since probably about 2015, early 2015, through my friend who ran the Kansai Bitcoin meetup, which is a local Bitcoin group that's been around since forever. And so he would post all this stuff about Bitcoin because he's a Bitcoin guy, not a Bitcoin maxi, but a Bitcoin guy. And so I would get spammed. 2014, early 2015. It's like, just take it easy with the Bitcoin talk. What is that anyway? And I mean, I knew it, but I didn't really know it. And so that's when I started getting into it. I'm like, oh, it's interesting stuff. I started getting into the whole blockchain space, learning more about it. And I came across, a friend of a friend was partners with Charles at that point. And so they were just starting this thing called the Cardano, right? And so they were starting their own crypto. They were looking for some people to run the pre-sale app project, the app that ran the pre-sale, everything from KYC to actual voucher distribution and all these different things. I came on as a project manager, ran that project, then switched over to different roles like business development, and did business development at IOG, IOHK, which later became IOG, for probably about 5 years. So altogether, I did about 7 years at IOHK, IOG. And so about a year and a half ago, I came up with the idea for Palmyra and for Zengate. And at that point, Sam and I were already kind of talking. I was thinking about doing something on my own. Started the company, started the project. Sam came on. And we've been chugging along ever since. Why do this project was basically because I've had a lot of experience while working at IOG and working with Charles Hoskinson in dealing with emerging markets. And so really emerging markets is where you can make the most impact. And that's just a fact. So that is why I was really passionate about continuing work in emerging markets. And this is why one of the reasons why Palmyra focuses on underserved economies in emerging markets. So that's a little bit about myself.
Awesome. Yeah, I've kind of noticed that with emerging markets too. We're really focused on onboarding new users at Atrium. And, overnight, we actually had 1,600 Indonesian people apply to be on our alpha. And it was out of nowhere. They all kind of joined our Discord server. They were all speaking a different language. So I had to start calling them up on the phone to hire translators to help all these new people be onboarded. So I definitely see the value there with emerging markets. And, you honestly have really as much history as anybody. I found the space in 2016, but I was very young back then. So I couldn't really suck in as much knowledge as you probably did. And yeah, I really like that focus on emerging markets. Sam, what's kind of your introduction to this space and what led to Zengate?
Yeah, I've been in the space I've known about the space for a while. Like my background's in economics and statistics, and I sort of was taught about Bitcoin and some of these concepts a number of years ago, but didn't really catch on to it until probably 2020. I was working on an insurance tech startup where I was trying to build some automated claims processes. We were trying to code up policy documents and whatnot, and at the time it was really difficult. This was pre-chat GPT, like very manual. And I had sort of come across this idea of parametric insurance. And I just found that such a compelling solution to some of the issues that we're, facing: automated payouts, simple sort of policies, all that sort of stuff run by oracles. And that was my introduction to blockchain again. So Dan and I met at one of the Cardano summits virtually, actually. I think it was in 2021 on the Floating Turtle, for those listening who can remember that. So we met there basically and just started talking. My professional background is more in traditional finance, and I worked at a management consulting firm. So I spent a fair bit of time with quite big institutions. So the biggest banks in Australia, the APAC region, insurers, telecommunication companies as well. So quite a broad background, but yeah, Dan had been thinking about this problem for a while. I had some exposure around emerging markets work as well, and it also just came together. There was a real commercial need for the tech and also just the business that we were building out. So we've been met with a lot of positive traction, and we've had just a big year, and there's another big year ahead of us as well. So very excited to be here. Thanks for having us, and I'm keen to dive into it a bit more.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for being on. I mean, really one of the first things that excited me about Cardano was this idea of emerging markets. How do you compete with, Web 2? How do you compete with Google and Microsoft, where they can just release an app that already has, 500 million users on it overnight? And to me, emerging markets was the way to do that. If you actually bring, banking to these people, or, bring, a way to trade commodities, or a way to participate in the greater global financial ecosystem, it brings everybody up. I mean, that and governance were really what sold me on Cardano originally. So I'm really excited to kind of learn more about it. So let's get straight into it. What is Zengate Global at the heart? And then we can kind of go into, more of the exciting updates that you guys have been on recently.
Sure. Well, actually, I know what Zengate Global is, but do you, Sam? Can you explain what Zengate Global is?
Yeah, sure. So Zengate Global is yeah, of course. So Zengate Global is a technology business. We're incorporated out of Ireland, so the European Union. And, at the core, the key mission that we've set ourselves is opportunity inclusion. We're very much focused around micro, small, medium-sized enterprises and really connecting them into the global market. So as a result, we interface quite closely with large institutions as well, whether that's regulators, financial institutions, service providers. Our real goal is just to connect it all together. So there's a real big plan from a product point of view of how we plan to do that. But right now, we're focused on Poma, which is a commodity trading platform, which we'll be talking a bit more about today. But at the heart, opportunity inclusion is really what we care about. And we believe that technology and the leapfrogging effects of technology is the way we get there.
And so I just kind of wanted to touch on opportunity inclusion. I don't think I was the first person to say that, but when I kind of, thought that in my head, I wanted to kind of create a term or define what it is that you do when you build these solutions and bring them to these markets, right? To emerging markets. So I always kind of thought that the phrase "level the playing field" was a little bit, a little communist. It's like you can never level the playing field. I mean, it's impossible. There's always going to be somebody who is got more and you just can't do it. It's impossible to do, just like communism is. And so that is why I always thought that, the free market if it's done in a fair way, it's basically a set of open opportunities for people to take advantage of. And it's up to you as a business person, as a human being, to take or not take those opportunities, right? Because nobody's going to do it for you. But if you present these opportunities to people, that gives them more access, and that basically kind of that gives them more ability to, as Sam said, leapfrog and to engage and to better their livelihoods if they have the drive themselves. And I think that is the most honest way of propping people up. You know, you don't drag them there. You give them the opportunity. You create that opportunity. Let them take it. If they don't want to take it, that's their business. But the opportunity exists. You cannot say that they didn't have the opportunity because you made this opportunity happen. So that is the core of opportunity inclusion. So I just wanted to kind of touch on that because sometimes, you know, the narrative kind of gets a little hijacked, and I think it's really important to kind of put it on in its place.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think that that's what, cryptocurrency offers people. I would say I'm kind of a poster child for that. Because of cryptocurrency, I took the opportunity and was able to leapfrog. And, now I can speak to people like you that, teach me about the world and teach me about technology and economics. And it really is because of this industry. So if we give people that opportunity and for, to actually take that, I'm from a first world country where, even if you're, on the lower end, you don't have it that bad here if you compare it to other countries. And I still was able to leapfrog. So if someone's starting out even, lower, it might even be easier for them to leapfrog in their society. So, you mentioned the Palmera platform. Can we go into that? What is the Palmera platform, and, what utility does that offer, existing crypto users and kind of, the new crypto users you're mentioning as well?
Sure. So the Palmera platform is a tokenized commodities exchange. So at its core, it is a new type of commodities exchange that essentially uses Web 2 and Web 3 technologies together to bring a hybrid solution, an aggregate solution to everybody across the line. So from producer to buyer to broker, everybody across the value chain gets more access. And so what Palmera is really, what's so special about Palmera is that the way this product is designed and the way this platform is designed, it creates an opportunity for underserved commodities to enjoy the same type of, or a lot of the same type of tools that traditional commodities enjoy. For example, traditional commodities like gold, silver, rice, even have a really large market, a lot of liquidity out there. There's a lot of, you can get trade financing for it. You can trade it on many different exchanges. A lot of access, right? So there's a lot of access for these commodities, but there's also a large set of commodities which are underserved, and this is literally a multi-trillion-dollar field. And these are commodities like teas, coffees, different types of grains, spices, commodities that have been traded for many years, but they're really difficult to index in the legacy way of using legacy technology. And this is where we come in. As a technology provider in that particular sense to these people, we created a solution that essentially gives them the opportunity to utilize those same tools, right? So to be able to index, to be able to trade these commodities through forward and futures contracts, to spot buy and sell, to have access to trade financing. To have access to, again, creating forward contracts and futures contracts at the producer, which is a lot of times something that is taken away from a lot of producers, like say producers in or hazelnut producers in Turkey, for example, have difficulty creating futures and forward contracts for their own crops, and therefore all this value is actually shifted to Western Europe, and so this is actually a big problem for them because they don't have the technology, the level of digitization that it takes to bring this back to them. And so again, this is where we come in. We give them that digitization, we give them that technology, and we give them that opportunity to essentially be able to do this. And I mean, that's just touching it. So maybe I'll give Sam a chance to kind of elaborate on some of these things.
Yeah, some of the ways I've been sort of thinking about it recently, it's sort of a threefold thing that we're seeing. And basically, you can sort of start with the premise that a lot of these markets are really unstructured. They're very inefficient markets, which typically means certain people are making a concentrated amount of money through those inefficiencies. But as a whole, people are not benefiting from the system. So in terms of the three sort of root challenges that we're looking to address, is the first is market access. So can someone from one side of the world connect with someone else from that side of the world? And right now, there aren't that many options in some of the markets we deal with. It might be as simple as, can you list a product? Like, can you accept payments from another country? It's actually more difficult than you think. So there are a lot of these barriers out there, and we resolve them by providing an aggregate solution. So that's number one. The second bit that I see is access to finance. We're very fortunate in terms of where we live in the world. Peyton, you grew up in America, Dan did. I grew up in Australia. Access to finance is actually, of course you have to have the right credit scores and all that sort of stuff, but it's quite straightforward if you have those things. In many of these markets, it's really difficult. And what's even more difficult is that some of these businesses are not traditional businesses that banks would lend to, or they don't know how to assess the risk. So there's no real lending market. And because there's no lending market, things are not as efficient. And the final one is volatility of commodity prices. When you don't have a risk market, things go up, things go down, and it's not very stable. So having instruments where you can actually manage and hedge risks is really, really important. Like, the last thing you want is, imagine if the wheat inside the bread you eat fluctuated, 40 or 60% week on week, or, year on year. That would just cause huge headaches and huge issues for millions of businesses out there. So, what we're trying to do is solve each of these bit by bit. We're starting with the first. We've built a platform as well. And, it's a really big, ambitious problem that we're trying to tackle, but it's been done before in other markets. We have great confidence that this can be done again. And, there's a clear business model and playbook that we're going to follow. And that's what we're doing, and that's what we're going to do.
So two things. Somebody reached out to me a couple weeks ago, and they invented, crypto coffee. They're trying to sell coffee to the crypto community. And he asked me, he said, what do you think of my website? What do you think of my product? Would you purchase it? And I said, what you're missing is traceability. In this industry, that's what people care about is, traceability, some of that money going back to the original person that created the coffee. Because I've actually looked at, the amount of work that it goes in, to the actual original people, how many people it takes, how many hours it takes, to create the coffee. And a lot of that is lost. So, we don't actually really pay that much for a cup of coffee in America when you consider, that the sheer amount of hours that goes into that. So, I saw that you guys were offering a traceability solution. And then the second part to this question is, you mentioned, people essentially being able to do futures on the commodities that they haven't created yet. So is this going to be a decentralized service in the sense that somebody can come to your platform, create the futures for their products themselves, and then also have a traceability solution baked into that?
Absolutely. That is the idea. You hit the nail on the head, so to speak. So the technology that we use is, I'm gonna say it, Sam. I'm gonna say it. We use NFTs. It's NFTs, man.
And they're licenses, digital collectibles,
and there's no monkey pictures, no dog pictures, no mammals attached to them whatsoever. So I've always thought that from the beginning, from way, when I discovered NFTs and colored coins was actually The way I actually really learned quite a bit about them was from an assignment that Charles gave me back in, I believe, something like 2017, early 20. It was before mainnet, so before Cardano mainnet. He asked me to go through this super long white paper about colored coins. And so I started going through it, and I'm just like, colored coins, what the hell? What? And and basically that was the beginning of the NFTs, because essentially that's what NFTs are. And so I always thought, wow, this is a really powerful thing. This is cool. You can do all this different stuff with them. And then when the craze hit, I just kind of saw, them being, digital collectibles, as you said, digital art collectibles. And I thought to myself, okay, I mean, yeah, that is a use case, but why is it like really the only use case? Like, what am I missing here? And it's all about trends. It's all about, everybody just likes to follow the trend. Like I made $1 million selling monkey pictures. Maybe you can too. And that's just, there's the nature of the beast here, and blockchain world and other markets as well. But I always thought that the NFT technology has always been, well, underserved by that. And so, especially with the EUTXO model, especially with the Ergo EUTXO model, and the Cardano as well, uses a very similar model. It allows you to store and iterate through metadata within the NFT. And so it just kind of clicked, okay, so what if we use, okay, so like you have OpenSea, right? And there's a lot of this trading in OpenSea of just, like art and collectibles and stuff, okay? And it's a huge volume. It's some, billions of dollars. And I said, well, okay, yeah, but that's just speculative, right? Most of it is just speculative. So why can't that be real world things like commodities, for example, right? So you create that particular like low barrier of entry, almost a degen experience in trading commodities. And this was like the first thought that I had about this, right? This was before everything else happened. Yeah. And I said, but you do this with commodities, you tokenize commodities using the NFT, and then you trade those. Now you're getting to something interesting. And I'm like, okay, but you can also actually attach other information like certificates, like traceability, and literally embed it into the NFT and have the NFT iterate through the traceability cycle as the commodity goes through its life cycle. And then it just started to click. It can have embedded traceability. That is its core, one of the core functions. Okay. And it's already needed. So why the hell not? I mean, this thing is right for it. And so this is how it really kind of both click together, right? So traceability, yeah, it's needed, and it's made for it, really. Certificates, attaching certificates, referring certificates to it, which is a huge thing in commodity trading. It's made for that. It's made. EUTXO is beautiful for that. And so it just started to happen. And so this is where the Winter Protocol was born, which is the tokenization and traceability protocol that powers Palmyra right now. So yeah, it's very important. And it is really kind of interesting that we've had these tools with us all along that could really kind of make this so just, slick and so easy. Well, not easy, but straightforward, right? Yeah. And part of it doesn't have to be clunky. It's very sleek. And we're just not using it. Well, now we are using it.
Well, that's really the benefit of the monkey JPEG trend is that now that you guys are actually, creating these commodities through NFTs, the average degen user now knows how to, interact with these NFTs and then receive them, use them, mint them. And, I think when you're focusing on, emerging markets, there is a world where those degens that would have invested in monkey JPEGs would rather, invest in these kind of new emerging commodities coming out of these new markets. Before we started recording, we were talking a little bit about, exciting new updates that were coming out of, your recent travels. And I know some people watching saw them on Twitter. So, what is the most exciting thing that happened, during your little month of, or 2 months of travel there?
What is the most exciting thing? I mean, I met the other side and really got to know them. I met the buyers, the brokers, the MSMEs that are on the other side. So we worked a lot with producers in Sri Lanka. We're also going to be working with producers in Kenya, even in Japan at some point. But working with buyers and working with brokers was really also very fascinating. Learned a lot about how the industry works, and really was actually really kind of taken back by the positive reception I got when I showed them the platform, because these guys were just kind of blown away to, oh my God, this will solve all these different issues that I have. Because as Sam was saying, a lot of these processes that are in place right now are very, very underserved, very underdigitized. They're very clunky. A lot of this is still done with faxes and emails and in-person meetings and just, handshakes. And this is billions of dollars. I mean, this is billions of dollars moving through the world with literally almost, no, not centralized, but organized digitization.
Structured, I think.
Structured, yeah, exactly. Structured digitization. And so when you bring this to these guys get ecstatic. So wait a second. So I can trace this whole thing, right? I know what's happening with this commodity. Oh, I know where it is, because these things you think you're taking for granted, to them, this thing is, they don't know where the hell it is half the time, because they have to call a guy or they have to literally send the guy over there and check. Hey, is it still in the warehouse? Hey, is it on the ship? Is it at the airport, right? Is somebody trying to jack it? It just all these things you solve with this technology. So that was very exciting to really kind of work with some of these buyers and brokers that are in Turkey, because Turkey is actually a really huge proxy market for a lot of the markets around it. So it's a huge market itself. It's a huge consumer market, but it's also a proxy market for a lot of trade into the Middle East, into Europe as well. It just, because of where it sits, it's literally sits on the edge of Europe and Asia.
Yeah, I saw a lot of Turkish goods in Dubai while we were there, so I can't confirm.
There's a reason for that. There is a reason for that, because the Dubai gets a lot of Turkish goods. They work with a lot with Dubai, and so yeah, we plugged into that network. So that was super exciting. We also we also signed with our brand ambassador over there, a blockchain firm called Coinoxes. It's a really well-respected firm in Istanbul, and they are going to be representing Zengate. That's basically Zengate Turkey is Coinoxes is now Zengate. Well, it's still Coinoxes, obviously, but it's also now Zengate Turkey. And so they're going to be our liaisons, and basically we're going to be also working with them to get more access to the market and get more traction over there. On the other side, there is actually a huge underserved commodities market in Turkey with Turkish hazelnuts. So Turkey actually produces 80% of all hazelnuts in the world. All these hazelnuts that you get from Nutella or whatever, most of those come from Turkey, if not all of them come from Turkey. But because of reasons, a lot of the value with the trading side, with the futurization and the forward contract creation in this particular commodity field is shifted to Western Europe. So these producers, they don't have the opportunity to create these things for themselves and to really monetize fully on what they produce for reasons, which we're not going to get into. So it was very exciting to talk to them because they're also very eager to get on the platform. It is a huge industry, huge. So yeah, it made a lot of, just a lot of great connections. Really kind of felt that the business is really starting to take hold, take grip, take shape. Checked off a lot of boxes over there, I would say. I went there, I said, okay, I want to make some sales. I want to sign some partnerships. I want to understand the market better. All those boxes have been checked off. And yeah, we're going into Sri Lanka with all this gained knowledge, and going into the new year with all this gained knowledge from Turkey. And we have an operation there as well. We have liaisons there. We have ambassadors there. So yeah, it was a huge trip.
Yeah, that's that's really exciting. As you were mentioning all of that, my first thought, is with dealing with different jurisdictions, how does Zengate plan to handle, compliance in all of these different jurisdictions? And, when you're mentioning reasons, that was kind of my first thought is, maybe compliance of some sort, right?
Well, the reasons are more of historical reasons of why things were taken out of Turkey or the Ottoman Empire and moved somewhere else. Some value, would say. And then later on as well, obviously, there were reasons. But yeah, I think actually, Sam's actually been working a lot with understanding regulation. Also been working a lot with our advisor, Joyce. And you can actually, why don't you tell a little bit more about Joyce, a little bit more about the regulatory environment and how we approach it, Sam?
Yeah, I might just start high level and then I'll get into some examples just to put some color to it. But at the high level, like at the high level, certain countries don't have good regulation around this space, commodity markets, property. The big one is around property rights. There are some markets that have attempted to build these types of commodity exchanges and have completely failed. And a lot of it is just around the legal rights around property, which all falls apart. That's actually a pretty good guidance around where we can operate out of initially. There's no point going somewhere that, the government is not at all supportive around certain things. And
Yeah.
it just won't work for the market participants. So, having a good idea around that, what you're looking for from a property rights point of view actually makes our life easier. So certain markets like Turkey, it's a bit easier. Sri Lanka, it's more straightforward. So they're the ones that you can have the highest impact on. So that's one bit that's around property rights. The other bit that we typically work quite closely with is around import and export requirements. So certain countries will place tariffs or certain requirements from a certifications point of view as well in order to actually bring products in or for products to leave. And even that bit itself is attached with different rules around payments, what's allowed, what isn't allowed, how all this stuff is reported and recognized as well. So we have to be, initially quite restrictive in terms of how we go around these things. And we have a very clear playbook around how we do this. Some of the customers we work with have actually had some experience, or we know people with experience on the ground that are familiar with the different requirements. So one example might be, in terms of sending tea from Sri Lanka to America, it's actually not as simple as put it in a box and, there you go. You have to get things tested by the Sri Lankan Tea Board, for example, which is the regulatory body that represents the tea industry in Sri Lanka. They're very, very strict around quality standards. So you have to go through that process. When you're actually getting the products imported into the US, the FDA gets involved. You have to have certain licenses around that. So there's, the good thing is this is not being done from scratch. There's rules, there's requirements, and it's also been laid out properly. So part of it is just getting familiar with the muscle and trying to automate and digitize as much of it as possible. So it's just, underneath the hood as much as we can so that producers don't have to deal with it. So, that's really the approach. We have to get really deep in our understanding of how this stuff works because, we have to be compliant with a lot of the stuff that we do. So, we spend a fair bit of time learning about that. and then putting that into the platform itself. So that's really the approach that we take around those things. But we try go to places where we can have the highest impact at first, and then once we get wins on the table there, we move on and tackle the next problem. But the good thing is it's all quite clear in terms of what's required. There's nothing sort of hidden behind the doors around, oh, but you forgot to do this thing. It's like, okay, no, it's on a website somewhere. We know the regulators. If we have questions, we just give them a call and say, hey, like this bit is unclear.
Yeah, that makes sense. And there are enough markets, for you guys to focus on a market that, is actually going to benefit the people there. And there's not going to be too much, friction to actually, expand there. So, in one of your talks, it was the one that we were talking about before we got on here, and I'll link it down below for everybody that's watching. It's Dan really introducing what Zengate is. He mentions that, he's going to use the technology of Ergo and also a little bit of Cardano's technology. And you also mentioned, Rosen Bridge a little bit. So that's kind of my curiosity, why Ergo? What is the, Rosen Bridge? And then, how are you also using a little bit of Cardano's technology with Zengate at the same time?
Yeah, sure. Well, I wouldn't say we're using a little Cardano technology. We're actually going to be using quite a bit of it.
Okay.
It's just right now, the protocol is on Ergo. Just various reasons. First of all, these assets, like I said, are NFTs. So while Cardano uses a minting, first of all, it's about finances, right? Cardano has a minting fee of something like 1.65 ADA, something like that. Ergo doesn't. Ergo actually has no minting fee, and all it is a transaction fee. So basically, it's at current prices, it's costs something like less than a cent to mint an NFT on Ergo. So if your goal is to mint all these utility NFTs, and I go to somebody and I say, you know what, we got 1 million units to tokenize, and that's going to cost you $10,000, or it's going to cost you $1 million. I mean, which one do you think you're going to pick?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the main reasons why Ergo for now. Another one is specifically the way the Ergo EUTXO is built. It's easier for us to add the traceability components to the Ergo NFT. Another reason is, and look, I hope I don't get hate from the Cardano Haskell crowd, but I like Scala more. I just like Scala more. I'm not I try to get into Haskell, but yes. So the Ergo script is a subset of Scala. And so I was a developer since the 90s, actually. I'll make everybody feel like super young here. Since the 80s, actually, since I was in my childhood, I was writing programs in BASIC and Pascal and a little bit of C back then, like 80 C. So I've been a programmer. I've been a code guy for a long time. And to me, I don't know, just Scala just feels better. I don't know. I just like it more. So that's also another reason why we went with Ergo. A lot of the tooling is already deployed on Ergo, like Babel fees. It just made sense. It's a really strong network, really strong community, just like Cardano. And in fact, we got a lot of crossover between Cardano and Ergo. So I'm sure a lot of about the Ergo community, which is also a lot the Cardano community and vice versa. So that's why Ergo. Now, this protocol is actually, I said protocol, weird. Protocol is actually it's made to work on Cardano and Ergo. So on the Cardano side, when the system scales up and needs decentralized oracles, we're actually going to be utilizing a bespoke oracle solution that was built by a company called 01X, who are also the company that designed our tokenomics. They're also the ones that designed World Mobile's tokenomics. So it's a pretty well known firm in the industry, and so they designed a very unique Oracle framework for creating bespoke oracles, which is what we need for an off-chain data validation. And so that is going to happen on the Cardano side. So the Oracle network for on-off-chain validation, because essentially a lot of this data is off-chain, like crop data, certificates. A lot of these things are off-chain, and somebody needs to bring them on-chain because that's the whole point. And so these oracles will be set up to do that and to interact with, not directly, but I guess in a way like the way of Havala, interact with the Ergo network to share the information. So basically, the Oracle on Cardano is going to process the information, hash the information, communicate with IPFS, which is where long data is stored for Winter Protocol. And then on the Ergo side, the Ergo NFT communicates, or the Ergo Protocol, or the Winter Protocol on the Ergo side communicates with IPFS as well and reads the hash, right? So it just pulls information from there, reads the hash, references with its own hash, so that it knows that it's actually an iteration of the same traceability chain. And that's how data is updated and stored and iterated through with the protocol. So it's cross-chain, truly cross-chain, and it's cross-chain for reasons, because that's the best way to make it work. The Oracle solution on Cardano, it just makes more sense. It's a larger network. There's just more bandwidth on that network that we can take advantage of. So it just makes sense to deploy oracles on Cardano. Not to say that we're not going to use oracles on Ergo, but right now we're going to start with Cardano and basically utilize Cardano for all the oracles. So Rosen is actually another interesting piece, because with Rosen, you can move assets back and forth between Cardano and Ergo, essentially utilizing the same asset on Cardano and creating kind of localized value-add solutions that could be just all in one chain. And these are various types of solutions. Maybe it has to do something with the trade DeFi component that we're going to build, right? So we're going to bring some of these assets onto Cardano, and then we're going to offer them as DeFi lending opportunities to DeFi participants. There's a lot of different usages, and Rosen is by far the most secure, the most common sense framework for something like this, because we can't afford, one of these crazy ass hacks with something like this. So using Rosen, we have a lot of faith in Rosen. We're actually the launch accelerator for Rosen. So we have a personal, we are personally involved. We have skin in the game. Technology is great, and I believe that this is going to be very crucial for making Palmyra scale.
I might just add in as well. One of the main things that, Dad's obviously been, and same as you, Peyton, you guys have been around the Cardano space for a really long time. There's just huge values alignment in terms of what Cardano as a community wants and what we're trying to build in this world, right? One of the things that really got me excited about Cardano was the work that they were doing in Africa. Still to this day, I just find it so inspiring. You can't make this stuff up. In terms of what it's trying to do, it is so clearly aligned with what we're trying to do, and the community gets it. I don't have to go and convince someone that, someone in an emerging market in Kenya doesn't have access to this particular service. It's just they just get it. And it sort of makes our life easier. And a lot of our community members, both Cardano members and Ergo members, they just really get the story and the narrative and the purpose around what we're trying to do. That alone is just incredibly empowering. And that was a really big reason for why we did things, and why we're going to stay as well, and why it's so important for us that we listen to the community and do stuff, transparently alongside them. So I just want to just really pop that in there, because I know many of your listeners are probably, Cardano community members, and, there's just so much alignment in terms of what we're trying to do. And, other projects as well are, tapping into that energy, and it's awesome.
Yeah, and that's a great point. There's been a lot of criticism out there, right, from various whistleblowing entities about Cardano and how things are done in Cardano, and some of these entities were, kind of trying to, take stabs at my character and say, well, why are you still here? You know things that other people don't. Why don't you like let people know what you know? Why don't you call, well, first of all, because if you actually know what really happened behind all this talk, I'll tell you, first of all, a lot of what's being said by these entities complete BS. It just is. That's number one. Number two, why am I still here? Look, yes, I have disagreements. Of course, I have disagreements with some things that were done. I'm not, one of these guys that says, oh, Charles can do no wrong. None of the entities can do no wrong, and everybody's a saint. It's business. I understand. One thing you can tell you that, number one, I just don't see there being malicious intent in anything that was done that might not have been, that haven't had the best outcome. That's number one. And number two, but not, last but not least, why don't I go somewhere else? Why don't I go to ETH? Why don't I go to Cosmos or Algorand or whatever, oh, they got great tech at Algorand. I mean, yeah, they do. But I love this community, this community. I love the Cardano community. I love the Ergo community. That is a huge part of building in Web3 and in the 21st century. Community. I mean, look, 20 years ago when I was in the .com bubble, 25 years ago, jeez. And anyway. A long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, when I was in the .com boom, there was a lot of this excitement and a lot of this kind of like you throw money at anything and it's going to make you even more money. But there wasn't this, social network layer just yet. We had some social networks like AOL and whatever, but it wasn't the same, right? It wasn't like it is today, not nearly the same. And back then, you could just, you can have this, huge juggernaut of a product, like you were saying before, throw out a centralized solution, and tomorrow you got a million users because you just partnered up with Microsoft, and they dumped all those users on you. Mm-hmm. And that's how all these things were done. Building on Cardano, that's why we're building on Ergo, and we'll keep on building on Cardano and Ergo. And like I said, as long as the community stays beautiful the way it is, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah. Sorry about the little jump there, everybody. I had a little bit of a crash, but the file's still fine. So really, just to respond to Dan's statement there, I kind of agree with his points there as well. I don't really see any malicious intent with the founding entities. Obviously, things didn't really shake out in all of the ways, but when I go to speak to some of the people at the founding entities, when I go to events, they have a good heart and they have a good passion for this, and they're not going anywhere. And to me, it seems like they're here for the right reasons. And, and me running my own development company, I realize that, when you get down in the weeds, it's a little harder to ship something, and things don't really, end up going the way that you want them to in the long term. And, when Cardano was created, it wasn't always supposed to be this, end all be all blockchain. It was supposed to be a network of networks where we use, different blockchains that offer various utilities that all connect into the Cardano blockchain and connect with each other. And, this is kind of what we're seeing at Atrium. I was a little skeptical about Midnight at first, but, as more info comes out and I did my podcast, to me, I see a world where, Midnight is integrated in Atrium, and the core of Atrium is still Cardano. And then we integrate, Ergo eventually, if there's a big enough community there that wants to see that happen. And it's nice to see you guys doing that. It's nice to see you guys kind of paving that pathway. And my one piece of advice there would to be, ignore the haters. They're always going to be there. They're always going to be mad about something.
Yeah.
But one good thing though, without offering financial advice, times are turning around a little bit. Maybe 8 months from now, we're going to be in the green a lot more, and then the haters get a lot more happy once they can drive
Yeah.
around their new little car and get the floors done in their house.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
so
They'll forget all the beef they have with everybody in this ecosystem. I can guarantee you that.
yeah, it's really just money, man. I mean, in the last bull market, like everybody loved me, and then like you just go through swings of like, Big Pay's the best, and then everybody hates me, and then everybody loves me again, and it usually, the correlation is with where the markets are at or with where the price is at. But I had an excellent podcast with you today. I learned a lot. I'm really excited for Zengate Global, and I want to do a follow up as you guys come out with more updates. But is there anything really important that we missed in this podcast today that you guys want to go over?
I think that actually we covered quite a bit, and I just kind of wanted to touch base on what we spoke about actually before we turned on the cameras, proverbially speaking. So why do this? Why do this? Why RWAs? Why commodities? Why just not another DEX aggregator or something, or why not something easier? Why not an easier market? I'll tell you why. And I've been in this field for quite a bit. In blockchain years has been, eons, and human years has been about 8. And one of the things that really, really inspired me, because I've been in IT for a long time, but really inspired me into the blockchain, especially the blockchain movement, is it's a movement, right? It was a movement. It was sold as a movement to me. And when back in the early days, I used to travel quite a bit with Charles in 2016, 2017, even 2018 to different conferences. He used to do the conference circuit like relentlessly I think he was on the road something like 340 days out of the year. So he told me something like that. And, I would listen to him, and I would listen to a lot of the people that would do keynotes and speak at these conferences. And back then the sentiment was, we're changing the world. We're going to bring these solutions. We're going to bring these solutions to like Africa, what Sam was saying. We're going to bring these solutions to already with this thing. And it really spoke to me. And, and it's 2023. And I was just kind of sitting here and I'm saying, okay, and so what's up with that? I mean, have we really done anything like that? Yeah, we made some millionaires into billionaires, but like what have we really done as an industry? I mean, we're a multi-trillion-dollar industry now. We're $1.5 trillion. So with something like that, you should really start thinking about, making these things happen that you really talked about so much back in the day. And I feel like there isn't enough action in this industry. The technology is there. It is there. We're not early anymore, okay? We can use this technology to make things better in the world. It is there. Somebody just needs to go out there. They need to say, okay, I had enough of this bullshit. We're going to build, okay? We're going to bring these technologies to the mainstream. We're going to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, and we're going to make it happen. We're going to bring mass adoption. We're gonna do the things that we spoke about so relentlessly back in the day. We're gonna make them happen. Instead of talking about how it's now, it's actually, we didn't realize how difficult it was. Like, that's not gonna work because this one guy said no to us. Screw that. I'm done with that. Okay, we either do this or we die. We have to do this. This is the time. We're not early anymore. This is the time. This is why Zengate is doing this. This is why what's Palmyra is all about. We are about pushing forward. Okay, somebody has to do it. People like you do it, Pay. People like World Mobile do it, and we're going to do it as well. And I hope others will. And I know others are out there doing it as well. I just hope the sentiment in the community and communities will be that we need to push forward. We need to make these things happen. We need to deliver on our promises of changing the world. So that's just wanted to throw in there. Do you want to add something to that, Sam? Maybe kind of talk about what we got coming up in the next couple of months, in the next month or so?
Yeah, sure. One of my old mentors was this former Reserve Bank or central bank board member back in Australia, and his wife is also an economist. And I asked her, during COVID, like how, like she was doing a lot of research out of China. So I was asking her, like how do you stay up to date with all this stuff? And she said, there's no shortage of being on the ground. When you're, even if you're pushing, pumping numbers and, doing analysis, like just that sentiment of being on the ground and the zeitgeist and the feeling of it. And, I'm really excited because we're heading to Sri Lanka again in about a week or so. And perhaps by the time this podcast goes out, we will be there. And there's nothing short of being on the ground and just, being in a tea garden, being in a spice factory, just like the smell in the air, the look on people's face, the body language, the conversations you have with regulators, business people, just real people. And it's inspiring. Like I've said the word inspiring a few times on this podcast, but it truly is. Like these are real people. And under the hood, technology is changing the way they can, operate, the way their lives can change. And like when this scales, it'll be impacting tens of thousands of people's lives. And, that's something that just really excites me. So we're going to be in Sri Lanka. We've got a really busy schedule. There'll be lots of photos and videos coming out and, information about what we're actually doing there. But, it's been a very hard year, like for everyone, especially with the bear market, the sentiment. But, as you said, things are starting to feel like they're swinging around a bit. And next year is just going to be enormous for us. So, this is really exciting. This is the last business trip of 2023. There's a really big 2024 coming out for us as a company. So, for those that want to, join this, vision and this mission that we have, like I invite all of you guys to join our community and, take part in something really inspiring and to see it evolve day to day. So I'm sure all of the different links will be down below in the description, but just, yeah, I invite everyone. This is a new movement that we're tapping into and, we're really excited about it.
Yeah, I honestly agree with kind of the angle that you guys are taking with this company, and being on the ground is really important. I helped somebody else at a coffee shop, get out of Binance Smart Chain the other day, going to the real world events and seeing how people what they need, what users need, what projects need, what companies need, what protocols need. It's really what you need as a company to design your product around, users and other companies and B2B. So I agree with everything that you guys mentioned so far. I'm really excited for this, for Zengate to launch and, for the value it brings to these, local farmers or the people that are actually creating these commodities. And yeah, thank you guys all for watching this podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sure we'll have a follow-up with them and, probably, within the next 6 months. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Pei. And yeah, looking forward to being on again in a few months and giving some updates, some exciting updates.
Yeah, awesome. See you guys. Be safe.